The text concludes that replacing internet and social media usage for real-life social interaction is something that should be done in moderation. Essentially, the effects of favoring internet interactions over real-life interactions can differ from person to person depending on their situation. However, the author explains that it is likely that those who use the internet more often as a means of social interaction can lead to, quote, problematic internet use, which in turn leads to more feelings of loneliness. It should be noted, though, that the author never goes into detail about what exactly is classified as, quote, problematic internet use. In the final analysis, the author explains that online social interactions, when used in moderation and to complement real-life social interactions, can be an effective way to communicate with others. In my own personal experience, the internet has been a vital tool in keeping up with my own social life in the midst of the world events we're currently facing. With travel between states and even between households being so restricted, the use of the internet for social interactions is more necessary than ever to keep feelings of isolation and loneliness out. However, since the current situation is hopefully temporary, I feel it's made a majority of people relish the feeling of real-life interactions. Even the most reclusive people are having desires to socialize in real life again. Bearing that in mind, I believe the sudden restriction of face-to-face interactions has reaped some benefits, as people are now more likely to favor them over online interactions.
So comparing and contrasting, in an article observing Chinese adolescents between the ages of 6 to 24 with poor interpersonal relationships, it's noted that internet addiction becomes a much higher possibility between that age. A vicious cycle ensues where the user turns to the internet because of their poor relationships, and subsequently becomes obsessed with online interactions, limiting or although stopping their real-life social interactions. This ultimately leads to increased feelings of loneliness in the user. Similarly, another article surveying Turkish university students found identical results in their experiment. The researchers found that there was a positive trend between constant internet use and loneliness, and vice versa, feelings of loneliness were seen to increase internet use. Moreover, this article who focused on the correlation between self-esteem and internet addiction. Those with lower self-esteem were found to show more symptoms of internet addiction. Going along with these findings, an article by the International Journal of Psychiatry and Clinical Practice found that problematic internet use was associated with poor family functioning in the total sample, and with younger age, the lack of romantic partner in female subsample, meaning those who spent most of their time on the internet had more difficult time maintaining family relationships as well as romantic ones. This same article goes on to detail the fact that social media use was heavily favored among the overall internet usage. Moreover, a hypothesis is provided by the author to explain why internet usage has a detrimental effect that it does. Going on to explain that, given that during evolution humans were more likely to survive in groups, brain mechanisms likely evolved to recognize satisfying social interactions only when there is richness of sensory information and bodily feedback during face-to-face interactions. This is largely absent in online communication, and individuals remain devoid of this sensorimotor information that would allow them to feel deeply connected to others. making feelings of loneliness and more likely to ensue, especially if trying to overcome them with further online communication. However, one article has findings that contradict those mentioned in the previous articles. An experiment conducted using those aged over 50 showed that internet usage actually decreased feelings of loneliness in the subjects. This article found that regarding health, internet users aged 50 plus show a lower percentage both of significant depressive symptoms and limitations in performing basic activities of daily living. It is important to keep in mind, though, that these subjects were significantly older than those tested in the previously mentioned articles, and it is not stated whether any of them reached the threshold of having an internet addiction. Personally, I believe that it can be reasonably concluded that the overuse of internet can have incredibly detrimental effects of any given person regardless of age. This can come from based off of, the UV light that you get from a computer screen that can also affect social interactions because we're so accustomed to meeting face to face that if we feel like we can get accustomed to not having to do that, then we will be a lot more harder to, it would be a lot harder for us to have human interaction face to face because we're so accustomed to looking at a screen and thinking that we don't have to face the consequences or the nature of talking to one another or having a conversation with one another. Now we feel like we can just go in the comment section of YouTube or, comment on an Instagram post about somebody's body trying to shame them and there will be zero consequences with it.